Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rave Social Podcast. I'm your host, Jaiden, and today we have Kaili. She is the queen, literally, of copywriting. She's so good at digital products. Her email templates are amazing. I've used them. I tell everyone about her, and I'm so excited for her to be on the podcast today to talk to us about digital products and copywriting. So why don't you give us a little intro of yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I cannot get over your hair is so cute. I just want to say this is chopped for me
It's
and
cute.
yours is what in my brain. I was like, I think I could handle that. But then I'm like, I couldn't quite get there. Maybe
You
next time. But
could.
yours is inspiring me. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so like you were saying, I am a copywriter. So I'm the founder of Reveal Studio Co. Reveal does websites, sales copy, brand strategy, launch copy, all the things for, I would say, primarily online businesses. So that's anything from a wedding photographer to a web developer to, a lawyer, like an IP lawyer, I would say typically, or a
Yeah.
contract lawyer. But we also get to work with some fun brick and mortar. I call them in real life businesses. I think that's more fun.
It
Like
is more fun.
it is fun, like
IRL.
dentists and realtors and things like that. But yeah, I spend most of my days thinking through the strategy behind like, okay, what do we need to say on this person's website to help them to stand out, connect with the right people? How can we create essentially a funnel at every step of the marketing? I call it an ecosystem, make sure that people are getting where they need to go and doing the things that they need to do through words. So that's what I do.
Yeah. And you're literally so good at it. Like when I found you on Instagram, I was like, I'm going to read everything she says because it's so good. And one thing I love about you and your content too is like you will stand up for things that you believe in. And
Yes.
like, I love that about you. Like on your stories, so many times I've seen you like respond to like people that are like marketing like in a really unethical way. Like you'll call it out and you'll be like, you can't really, like, why would you say it that way? Maybe say it this way. And my favorite thing is that you always give like constructive criticism. Like you don't tear anyone down, but you're like, well, you could say the exact same thing this way and it would be like ethical or would make more sense. So I just think that's so cool that you do that.
Oh, I so appreciate that. When I went to journalism school. My degrees are in journalism and psychology. And I used to have a sticky note that I would take with me to my different desks and jobs and whatever. And it always said, be a voice for the voiceless. My whole thing was, what a
Yeah.
privilege it is to have a gift for words. And I want to use that gift like for good. And so then when I started Reveal 6 years ago, just seeing all of the ick in the online space and watching really good people fall for it, I was like, oh, I have to do something about this.
Yeah, you do. And you do such a good job with it. Like, I don't know. I see stuff all the time and I'm like triggered by it, but I don't know how to respond like as eloquently as you. Like, definitely one time you saved me because I was like calling someone out and then all these like haters came for me and I was like, I know the person who has been through this. And then when I talked to you, you were like, well, like, did you like, do you mean it? Like, do you mean what you said? And I'm like, I do. So like, I guess I have to stand by it, which I loved because you're just like, it's so just like refreshing to have that authenticity and then be like, yeah, well, if you're brave enough to like call something out, then you have to be brave enough to like deal with what
Though,
might come from that.
yes, yes. I do think, I would say I'm telling people I'm in my soft girl era right now because, and I know you and I kind of talk about this, even if you have thick skin, even if you did mean it, even if you stand 10 toes on it, it still sucks when people twist your words or say, you are saying X and you're like, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying. And no matter what you say, they're not here to understand you. They're just here to be upset. And I think with the advent
Yes.
of threads, it has gotten, I don't know if you're seeing this, but almost worse. Oh my
I
gosh.
do feel like it got worse. Like it actually kind of scared me away from threads and I started like not really posting because I was like, for some reason, like the negativity there, like it's very like, and like everyone wants to like jump in on it where like you
Yeah.
can kind of post an opinion on Instagram and like some people might comment, you might get some hate. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really spiral as much as it does like on threads.
I agree. 100%
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I've been scared over there. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to like only say really basic stuff, I guess.
I
I
know.
don't
Yes.
know.
Sometimes you have to take a break. That's what I'm doing. I'm on a little soft girl break. We'll see how long it
Yeah.
lasts.
Okay. I love it. So question for you. Let's talk about copywriting first. What do you feel like are the biggest mistakes, or like if there's one major mistake that people make in their copywriting that's
Mhm.
like costing them sales or costing them to like not grow the way they want to?
Yeah, I think the biggest overarching mistake is a lot of people think that copywriting is just writing. So they make the mistake of, oh, I'm really good at creative writing, or I always got A's on reports in college.
Yeah.
And so then they think, oh, I can do my own copy. I'll write my own website. I'll do my own sales pages. I'll write my own sales emails and I'll hire out the design or I'll hire out something else, but I can do the
Yeah.
copy. So I think the biggest overarching mistake is a misunderstanding of what effective copy is, high quality is, a misunderstanding of it's an entirely different skill than creative writing or reporting or journalism or anything like that. It's really a combination of creative writing, sales psychology, and marketing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest mistake is just assuming that copy is kind of the last thing that they should outsource. And then I would say
Definitely.
with copy, let's pretend somebody has already DIY'd their copy. It's too late to go back. Um, I think thinking too hard about it. So, because I totally understand not everybody is in a place to invest in a copywriter. Not everybody is in a place to invest in templates. I get that. I don't think you should go into debt for any of this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so let's pretend you don't have the budget and you do it yourself. For whatever reason, a lot of times people start to write their web copy or their sales copy and they go into like corporate speak, professionalism, and they
Oh,
think
like
like,
they lose their entire like personality?
mhm, yeah, and they just start typing
Interesting.
as if they're essentially like a corporate robot. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait. Because I think people want to sound professional, right? They think, well, it's my website.
Yeah.
It's important that people take me seriously. No, I'm an expert. And then you read it and they've lost their entire brand voice.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I honestly am so like repelled by anything that sounds like corporate or like cold in any way. Like, please no. If I go to your website and it's like that, I'm like, oh, I want to know who you are. Like, I want to work with you, not whatever this like corporate
Yes.
version of you is.
Yes.
How do you feel like people can do that if they have to write their copy on their own for whatever reason, investments? Like, how, what advice would you give someone to do that?
Read it out loud. I think that's a huge
Okay.
thing. Read it out loud as if you were speaking. So, like, literally take your web copy, read everything, and do it in front of like a trusted, blunt friend. So, somebody who isn't just going to tell you, like, yeah, yeah, it's so good. I love it. But somebody who's going to stop you and be like, you would never say that. Or that doesn't sound like you. Because if you can't do it for yourself, which is understandable, sometimes we get too close to these things, you need somebody in your corner who can do it for you. And so I would
Yeah.
say read it aloud, at least to yourself, and be very honest. And if you're like, that's not going to work, then read it in front of somebody who's going to tell you, like, yeah, that's not it.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. And what do you feel like okay, actually I have a question about like copywriting and social media because I feel like we focus copywriting on like our websites, our emails, like our sales funnels, like that kind of stuff. We're like, okay, we need good copywriting there, but copywriting also matters on social media, which is like kind of my wheelhouse. But do you feel like if somebody's not good at copywriting, then they're going to not be good at content?
No,
Or
because I think, and this is something that isn't black and white, there's a lot of gray here. I would say that that's content writing, which is different from copywriting. So it's still a
okay.
skill. It's just tapping into different skill sets within the skill. So
Yeah.
content writing, like writing for social media, is very similar to writing blogs. And typically on like a spectrum, I would say, creative writing, writing for school is far left, like basic, I can write.
Yes.
Direct to consumer or B2B copywriting is far right. And then I would say content writing kind of falls in the middle, where
Yeah.
a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily be good at copywriting can be really good at content writing because it's more about engagement and information, education, personality.
Yeah.
And yes, obviously, you're always selling. The entire reason all of us have social media is to increase our brand presence, increase awareness, eventually funnel people to paid things.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different. So no, I don't think if you aren't going to be a great web copywriter, you couldn't be a great content writer on social media.
Yeah. You can still write good content. I agree with you. I feel like it's so it's smaller volume of writing, obviously, because like it's a caption, it's a story. It's not like a full web copy. And for that reason, I feel like you can get through it easier and like be good at that because it's shorter form. And I also feel like for like social media copy, like as long as you understand like some really basic sales principles just about
Mhm.
like fears, desires, emotions, you're going to be able to like get by just fine and even probably really well, especially if you want to like pair that with your personality, then like you'll be fine.
100%. I think social media is more about picking up on what is working right now paired with what do we know works always? What are
Yes.
proven strategies?
It is that like combo of the two for sure.
Yes, whereas with websites or sales pages, sales emails, we have a little bit more research into like what the brain wants when it comes to being sold to ads, billboards. And so that stuff I feel like is more easily applied to something like a sales page.
Yeah.
The research can be more easily like, okay, well, we found that this needs to be centered and the header needs to be like this. That just applies better to web purposes. Whereas social media is a little bit different. It's a lot more visual. And
Yeah.
there's the component of, I don't think we can really, I think it would be irresponsible not to mention that if you have a strong social media presence in general, if people just enjoy your content, they just like watching you yap on your story. Really, there's not a lot you could say that would make people like that wouldn't work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like people, there are
Yeah,
a
it
lot of
actually does.
brands and educators and service providers who like regardless what they say, they're gonna have clients because people just love them.
Yeah, just love their personality. Like it's
Mhm.
just a strong personal brand, so it doesn't
Right.
really matter. And like there's so much like I know it's shorter form content, but there's so much of it and it's so consistent that like it's not like a website where if someone lands on your website, you need to like nurture and convert them like
Yes.
right on there. It's
Again,
like somebody can just like be in your community for like quite a while and you can like take them through that process multiple times a lot like more frequently, I feel like. That's
yes.
why like your website, you don't have to rewrite the copy on it every month. Like it's good to
Hopefully you're
go.
not. Yeah. Let's not do that.
Please no. Okay. And then one other thing that you kind of talk about a lot is like the coaching industry, which I've always loved your stance on the coaching industry. And you've always like it's made me question like, okay, like should I invest in a coach? Like, is that worth it? And I have been in coaching programs that are great. But I like that you're like, I've never even really had a coach. You haven't, right?
No.
You just did it on your own, which is
Yeah.
crazy and so cool. But what and now you sell digital products, which
Yes.
most people I feel like when they make the shift from one-on-one to a passive offer, that's kind of when they have a coach.
Mhm.
How did you figure that out on your own and like how did that go for you?
That's one of those things where you're like, I don't know, I guess I just did it. I knew I had never this is crazy, I've never talked about this. I had never seen a copy template before I made my first one. I to
Oh
this
my god.
day have never seen another copywriter's templates, ever. I have no clue what they look
Yeah,
like.
I don't think I have seen other ones either.
Okay. I'm
Only
like,
yours.
what does their key look like? How do they work? So I think for me, I've just always been, it might help to know that that's just my personality. So when I initially went to school, I was going for kinesiology. I really thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was a big fitness girly. It was my entire life. Turns out being a physical therapist is not the same as getting paid to work out. I don't know where in my brain
A
that
little
was,
bit different. I
yeah,
think
it's
you have to work with, like, older people a
oh,
lot.
yeah. Oh, that was the thing that threw me. They were like, "You're pretty much gonna be helping old people with knee problems." And I was like, "Oh,
That
I
does
have
not
made a
sound
grave
fun.
mistake." Um, and so writing has always been, I would say, my number one skill. The thing that I knew probably the only thing I knew I was gonna be better than the majority people in a room, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing else that I was, like, the best at, but writing was very much treated like art, where it was like, "Well, what are you," and it is an art, but it was like, "What are you gonna
Yeah.
do? Be an author?" And people
Oh
are like,
my
"That's not a real job." So I didn't pursue writing because I didn't know, well, how am I gonna make a living? So when I decided kinesiology wasn't for me, I went to the journalism school, and I was like, I'm thinking about switching over to go into journalism, and the, head advisor there said, "Why don't you get on as a writer at, like, the newspaper or one of the magazines?" I went to Iowa State, very well-known journalism school, a bunch of really great magazines, publications to write for. I tried 3 of them, and I was like, "Yeah, none of these are for me," and so I said, I'm just gonna make my own magazine. And so when I went back to the advisor and I told him this, and he's like, "Nobody's done that for 5 years. That's, like, a lot of work. You have to create an entire constitution, like, you have to create a like, a group, and then you have to create a constitution for it, and then you have to pitch in front of, like, the board to get funding, and then you have to get a staff, like, you have to fill out your staff." And I'm sitting there, and he's like, "You're not even a journalism student." And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it." And I did it in a semester. We had a staff of almost 50. We had full
That's
funding,
crazy.
80-page print magazine twice a year. Yeah, everything. I founded and led. I was 20 years old.
That
No
is
way. I don't know what I
crazy.
was doing. But
It's that, like, naivety, I don't really know how you say that word, but that, like, gets you there because 'cause you're like, "That can't be that hard."
yeah, you literally are like, well, my mindset is always, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna so I might as well start. And that so I think the same thing happened with digital products. Like, I was like, well, I don't really want to make a course, but I would like to make additional income, so I'm gonna build templates. I thought about what are people hiring me for? And really what happened was 2020 was a very big year for Reveal, to the point that I had multiple members on my team writing, and we
Yeah.
were still turning down probably 2 to 3 clients a week. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I realized I honestly felt bad about it. I was like, I'm just turning them away and giving them nothing. Like, I'm like, "No, I can't write your sales emails. Goodbye."
Goodbye. Good luck
Yeah,
out
see
there.
ya. And so I was like, "All right, that's a problem." And so that's really what made me build out templates, because I wanted to be able to say, "Hey, I can't do it, but everything I would have done is in this template."
Yeah. I love that. And your templates are so awesome. I do, like, content copy for my clients that are on Instagram 888, and I loved the way you did it. Like, when I saw yours, I used your, like, bracketing and, like, color coding, the kind of way that you do that for my copy with them so that they could fill it in really
Mhm.
easily. And I just was like, "Oh my gosh." And the emails that I used from you were the Black Friday ones. And
Yay,
they worked so well. I was just like, she's a genius. Like,
yay.
she's literally a genius.
Thank you. Yes, it's so nice to talk to people who use them. I mean, I get a lot of people in my DMs who will say, "I bought this, I used it, and it went really well." But it's nice getting a little bit more, I don't know, info on how, like, the experience is, and if they're easy
Yeah.
to use and all that. So that's good to know, because,
So awesome.
like I said, I've never seen another one. I have
Which
not
I love. I
compare it
think
to.
that's so special because, like, then it's just your own thing. Like, it's your own thing that you thought of, which makes me think of, you are kind of in people's businesses that have digital products.
Yes.
What do you see people, like, do wrong when they're launching digital products that make it, like, not go
Yes.
the way they want?
Yeah, I think there's 2 big things. The first thing I would say, not vetting the idea or getting proof of concept. I think a lot of people
Okay.
they just want to have digital products, right? And so they are like, "Well, I want this," and they build it. They put all this time into it. They don't make sure they have no proof that people want it or people are going to buy it. And
Yeah.
then it doesn't sell, and it's not always even that the idea itself was bad. It could just be how they packaged it. They made it a
Okay.
course and people just wanted an e-guide. They
Yeah.
made it an ebook and people wanted it to be short trainings. Like, you have to make sure that the thing you're building is what people want before you put so much time into
Time
it,
into
because
it.
then you're gonna be burnt out, bummed out, and you're probably not gonna wanna try again, because it can
Yeah.
really feel, like, defeating.
Yeah.
And then I would say truly not marketing it enough. I say this all the time. People should be annoyed. You want people to be annoyed. You want them to think, this girl will not shut up about this thing she made.
Yeah.
Then and only then have we talked about it enough.
No, that's literally so true, and it's something I try to coach my clients on too. Like, people are really hesitant to sell, and it goes with what you said earlier in the call. You're like, "We are literally in business to sell." And who are we kidding? Who are we kidding? Like, that's what I wanna say. It's like, you're here to sell.
Yeah.
People know that you're gonna sell.
And no one is
That's
shocked
that's why they followed you, is to literally be sold to, and, like, but yet we're so scared to talk about our things.
and
It doesn't make
embarrassed.
sense.
I think people are almost like embarrassed because they view it as like asking for money. I'm like, listen, you're not knocking on someone's door with a basket of chocolates for a fundraiser and like asking them to pay $5 for a bar of chocolate. And even
No.
that, it's like it is what it is. You literally are providing them something of value in return. It's an exchange. That is what
Yeah.
people are here for. This is a marketplace. We are here to exchange goods,
Yeah.
services, currency.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think people get like tripped up on that. And it's like, but if you believe in your offer, like if you really believe in what you do and like you think that you're the best at it, like
Yep.
you're going to want to sell it, like for sure. Cause you know that every time you sell it, you're helping someone
Right.
with their
Exactly.
problem. It's definitely like a mindset thing. Um, how would you recommend someone like test something before they launch it? Like,
Yeah,
how do you get proof of concept?
I think there's a lot of ways to do this, and it really just depends on what the thing is, right? I think the simplest is, are there other people doing it and it's getting eaten up, right? Like, is this a
Yeah.
thing that people can't get enough of? We've seen that with really the advent, I would say 2019, 2020, 2021. If you built an online course, it doesn't even freaking matter what it was about, people were going to buy it. People
Yeah.
were desperate for online education because everybody was stuck at home, bored to tears, couldn't leave. And they were like, well, I want to at least feel like I'm doing something. And
Yeah.
so online courses. So like the easiest thing is it working for other people? Um, right? So that's like level one. Level two, if we have no proof of that, would be like talking about it on social media, talking, like asking around in your own way. So if you get a lot of really good story engagement when you ask questions or put question boxes, you can do it that way. If you
Yeah.
don't get a lot of engagement like that, you can literally ask your network and just describe what you're doing and see. I would say, depending on how unique your product is, you're going to want to be careful with that because you don't really want to give away
Yeah,
your
don't want someone to
idea.
steal it.
Yeah. But you can also totally do a beta round. I don't call them beta rounds, but I do a round of, before I put something on like a public shelf, before I add it to my shop, I have probably 5 to 10 people try it, use it, and give me all of their feedback. We have a contractual agreement where it says, depending on the price point, either you get this thing for free or you get it at like an extreme discount in exchange for you are going to give me your honest feedback. You're going to answer any of my
Yeah.
questions. Doing that usually, if every tester is like, holy crap, this was so helpful. I know I struck gold. If people are like, yeah, great.
Yay.
Like, yay.
It was
You
good.
might know like, okay, this needs to be spiced up somehow.
Yeah. So, like, at that point, it's like you don't have to give up on it, but then like, maybe it's not enough value, or maybe you need to change the structure of it or something
Right,
like
and
that.
what I tell people when it comes to launching is look outside the online industry, and I love looking at the entertainment industry.
Me too. It's my favorite.
I know you make great reels about it. Like stand-up comedians, they will test jokes in tiny venues, like 1 to 200 venues before they go do a Netflix special, before they go do a Vegas show. And they
Yeah.
take their entire book of jokes and they tell them at all these places and they see, are people laughing? Okay, they're not laughing. The reason they do that is because better to fail in front of 50 people than to fail in front of 5,000. And
Yeah.
so that's how I feel about the testing and refinement round, where it's like you said, you don't have to give up on it. If your tester said, hey, X, Y, and Z kind of felt like a bummer or not a great user experience, at least you failed in front of your 10 testers. And now when you do release it to the public, they love it. They eat it up. Everybody's like, holy cow, you hit the nail on the head, as opposed to releasing it to everybody and then people are disappointed. And now it's going to greatly impact sales moving forward because now your whole following knows that it wasn't up to par.
Yeah, that's so important, I think. Like, it's so important to deliver value or else, like, you're gonna lose your even in, like, a freebie, I think people are like they'll just, like, throw a freebie together, but, like, your freebie really needs to, like, be a zinger or
Hmm.
else, like, you're gonna lose people there, which is, like that's a bummer because you could convert, like, all of those people into a higher ticket
Yes,
offer.
100%.
Yeah, it's crazy. So your digital product journey too, you started it as like a passive stream, and was that just because you were completely booked out of one-on-one projects, or and you're like, I'm at capacity and I can't raise my prices, or like what?
Mostly, I think it would be silly to pretend like I wasn't intrigued by making more money. Um, Obviously, I uh, wanted more income, and so when I left school, I worked in a Fortune 500 investment company as a thought capital writer, so in marketing.
Yeah.
And finance has always been something that's really intriguing to me. And then working in it for 2 years and learning so much about it, the idea of personal finance and making like really smart financial moves is just something that I really enjoy. I read finance books. I'm a big finance nerd. And so for me, I always knew I want multiple consistent revenue streams. And so after year one in business, right? Because the first goal is like just make money in your business.
Just survive.
Just pay the bills. And
Yeah.
so once I got to a place where I was like, not only am I paying the bills, but like you said, I'm booked out. I literally can't take more clients even if I wanted to. At that point, it was like, okay, well, what other revenue stream can I do? And like I said, I didn't want to do a course. I didn't want to be a coach. And really what it left was digital products. And so I was like,
Yeah.
well, those actually do make sense for my industry.
Yeah. They really do make sense for your industry, and that's why
Right.
yours are so good. That's so
Thank you.
interesting. And you first started doing it, you said, like, it was honest it was a smaller part of your income, right? Was, like, passive, but then as you've kind of grown, you've shifted more towards that it's a larger percentage of your income now.
Mhm.
What has that done for you? Like, do you work less, or do you work the same and take on better projects?
I wouldn't go as far as to say a workaholic because when I hear workaholic, I think like you can't take a vacation,
Yeah.
you are working till 10 PM. But I do genuinely, I mean, I love my job. And so I
Yeah.
think what it's done for me is it's released pressure where it's like I might be working the same or close to the same hours, but it's not because I feel like I need to, it's because I want to. And so then I'm like, well,
Wow.
I get to build out more products. I get to work on more collaborations. I get to put a little bit more time into my social media, show up more on stories. So I think
Yeah.
it's just released pressure would be the biggest thing.
I love that so much because I think 2 things happen. 1, people want digital products so that they don't have to work as much, which I also like, there's no shame in that at all. But I'm sure that before you got to that point, so there was a point in which you were completely booked, you couldn't take on more clients even if you wanted to, and you realized, "Okay, but I want another revenue stream for whatever reason." I'm sure there was a period of time you went through where you were working a lot trying to get that off the ground while you were at capacity. Is that true?
Yeah, I was probably working more than I was before. To be honest, what worked for me was at the time my partner was in a job where he worked 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hour days.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm like, what the heck else am I going to do? I was going to the gym for 2 hours every day, training my dog. I adopted a dog during COVID. But we also have to remember this was 2020 when certain events were going on around the globe,
Yeah.
right? So there wasn't that much to do. And so when I think about it, I have never, put it this way, I have never pulled an all nighter working.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've worked a 10-hour day since starting my business. Like for me, a long day, if I work 8 hours, I mean, I'm in the middle of a launch. I've
Yeah.
always been pretty good at prioritizing life before work in the sense of like hour exchange. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Totally. Makes perfect sense.
I think the most time put in honestly is the back end of adding something to your business. Like, I had to figure out, where am I gonna host my shop? Okay,
Yeah.
Shopify. All right, now I have to learn a new platform, and then, like, now I have to get everything onto Shopify, and now I need to, like, make Shopify look nice. And then
Yeah.
when I had made a little bit of money from it, it was like, okay, well, now I need to have it actually designed by a professional so it looks like it fits my brand. So
Yeah.
there, it's kind of like the back end took up the most time, where I was like, well,
Yeah.
and then now I also need to talk about it enough on social media, because digital products are like all the rage right now. But in 2020, they were less so. I would say it was courses.
Yeah.
And
I've
so
seen,
I
like,
had to
that
get,
shift too. It was, like, courses and then, like, it was, like, courses, and now I feel like people are a little bit burned out on courses, and they just want, like, the digital product. They want it basically, like, done for you almost, or they want, like, one-on-one. Yeah,
yes.
exactly, and I think it is the economy, like, they want, like, the juice and the squeeze to line up because they're more, like, worried about where their dollars are going and if the
Yes.
payoff is there.
Yes. And the idea of spending $2,200 on an online course feels a little bit more tough to swallow right now, when you're like, $2,200 for a lot of people, rightfully so. That is a lot of money. And in
Yeah.
2020, we were just throwing that around like, that's one thing that,
The government was just giving it to us.
oh my gosh, I'm like, can we go back? No, I'm just kidding. Um, I that is one thing in the online space, though, I will say, does worry me, is our perspective of what a lot of money is. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you have, like, in real life friends, once again, like, people not in the online space. And when we get together and, for girls' night or for dinner or something, and we're talking about work, if somebody was getting paid a salary that a lot of people in the online space make for their business, we would be like, jaw drop. What freaking job do you have? Right. But in the
Yeah.
online space, we're like, yeah, but are you a seven-figure founder?
Oh
Like,
my god.
you do you make 20K passive months while drinking a Mai Tai on the beach? And it's like, what are you possibly talking about? Like, do you fly your family first class to Europe once a quarter? No,
That's not normal.
it
That is
is not
not normal.
correct.
And I saw your post. I recorded an episode last night with Jordan from the Space Social, and we were talking about, you posted a thread. I don't remember if you responded to it or if it was your thread, but it was talking about, like, the goalpost keeps moving.
Yes, that was my thread. I said I saw an ad that said how to go from 1 million to 100 million. The goalpost, I mean, it's on wheels.
100 million, like, you guys, I think the thing too is, like, people do not understand, like, that's not even necessarily the lifestyle that you want. Like,
No.
I don't think people are connected with themselves enough to know, like, actually, this amount of money would be like, holy shit, which is a lot
Well,
lower than you think.
yes, I don't, once again, tapping into my financial background, I don't think, like, if you are not being smart and intentional with your $100,000 a year, which once again is still a lot of money, making
So
six
much money.
figures, if you and your laptop and your idea have generated six figures, like, claps all around. I think like I said, the goalpost is continuing to move. And so then we don't celebrate these things like we should. $100,000 from you and your silly little idea on your silly little laptop, you guys, that's a big freaking deal. Anyone who's made
That's
you feel
crazy.
thank you, yes. But if you get that 100K and you aren't investing it appropriately, saving it appropriately, designating it appropriately, setting aside, like, you aren't going to know what to do when you make 200, 500, 1 million, 100 million. I just don't think some of the highest paid athletes aren't making 100 million.
I'm
It's
just
just
like, we
insane.
don't need, I mean, good for you, I guess, if that's what you want. Like, I'm not gonna shame you for that, but, like, you would probably, like, live your best life on, like, 300,000.
Thank
Like, I'm
yes.
just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is that makes people just want more and more and more. More.
It's because there is no when the goal is strictly just a number that you've just made up in your head, an arbitrary number that you think, well, this is where I will feel successful or this is where I'll feel happy, but you can't tell me what you're going to do with it, which really defines the happiness. Of course, when you get there, you're going to be like, well, now what? Okay, so now I made 200K. Nothing changed about my life really. Like maybe you bought a designer bag. Like, are you so thrilled? Is your
Yeah.
life so much better now that you get to put your belongings in that? Which great. I'm not here to hate on what anyone does with their money. What I'm trying to say is when you don't have a deeper reason that you want to make a specific amount of money, there
Yeah.
is no way you're going to be happy when you get there.
No.
You're just
No,
going to be
because
like, okay, now what? Now I want to
like
make
another
more.
one.
Mhm.
Another one. Yeah. It's honestly crazy, and it's hard not to get sucked into. I don't really like the money marketing thing strategy that people have of like, here's how you can make this much money. Like, I understand that like sometimes it's true. Of course, I'm like sometimes it's true. Maybe it's always true. I don't know, but I'm like I think that takes away from like the work that goes into things. I think it cheapens what you do when it's just only about that. Like,
Yeah, 100%. I think what's difficult is people on the other end of it are very loud. And so there aren't a lot of quote unquote safe spaces. Do not want to be that dramatic. Like nobody's in danger here. But there's not a lot of safe spaces to talk about money and income in this way without somebody just jumping in and being like, well, you just have a bad mindset. There's nothing wrong with wanting wealth. And it's like, no, we're not saying there's anything wrong with wanting wealth. Like I think I would wager to say the majority of people would like to have some level of wealth. I think
yeah.
especially in, America, Canada, Europe. I can't really speak. I haven't lived in anywhere besides America and Australia. But in those countries, like truly having wealth in any country, but makes a really big difference, right? So I think it would be silly to
Mhm.
say anyone doesn't want that. Um, Especially right now, like the world is SOS, big SOS on the global economy.
Big SOS vibes,
Big
especially in
SOS.
housing markets.
I think we just need to remember that there's gray. And so it's like there is a level of I want more money, but I will know when enough is enough. And by saying this is enough doesn't mean you're closing yourself off to future success or you have a bad mindset. It just means you're going to allow yourself to reach a goal and then I don't know, pause to celebrate that you reached that goal before you just say, "Oh, well now that I got here, I actually think it's 100,000 more."
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's totally awesome to have goals and to want more, but I think it's like the constant wanting more that is like that's what's negative is it's like, but did you even like take a second to like bask in what you've already done and like those accomplishments and like the fact that you can pay your bills and your mortgage and whatever like easily, and then can we move it on later like after we
Right.
recognize this? Yeah,
It's
100
just
million.
I mean, I could talk about the online spaces, money conversation for so long because there's also the element of there's a lot of talk about income and not a lot of talk about wealth management, money management. And so it's like you could
Yeah.
make a ton of money. You could make 500,000 for the next 10 years. And if instead of doing something smart with that, instead of managing it well, you just upgraded your lifestyle, you built a house, you got a nice car, you started going on vacations, guess what? At the end of those 10 years, you're still going to have to work. You might never be able to actually retire and continue to live the life that you built because
Yeah.
unfortunately you set up a life where you need constant income. Whereas if you
Yeah.
make great money, make smart money management decisions, invest appropriately, you'll get to retire and continue to live the life you want without working. And there's just not enough
Yeah.
conversation around that.
No, there is not. There's one girl that I follow, and I can't think of her handle now, but she's this cute blonde girl who teaches about like personal finance. And her story was like she was in a lot of debt,
Chloe,
and then now yeah, but I can't think
she's
of her
from Iowa.
handle. Stop it. Our girlie's from
Yeah.
Iowa.
Yeah.
But that she talks about that a lot, and I really love that. And also with what you're saying, I saw a TikTok the other day, and this girl was like, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you spend all of it. 'Cause, like,
Yes.
if you spend all of it, then that's, like, the most money you're, like, ever gonna have, like,
Well, this
you
is
have
how I
to
feel about people who come out and say they made, like, 400K in a launch, like, 3 times. I'm like, where is it?" And then they're, like,
where did you put it?
no, literally, I'm like, "Where did it go? What did you do with it?" That's crazy. Because it's the people who, like, made, quote, unquote, they're seven-figure earners, and then the next year, they tear their business down, go back to corporate, and then eventually they come out with their story of, like, "I was struggling to pay my bills," blah, blah, and I'm like, where did the money
Did
go?"
it
Like,
go?
what did you do with it?
And, like, income is awesome, but, like, also expenses.
Oh,
Like,
expenses.
also expenses, and, like, for a lot of people, the more money they make, the higher their expenses go, like,
Yes.
unless you have a lot of passive income, and it's just, like, not mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to say, like, "I made $10,000 on this launch, but I spent $5,000 on copy, a social media
Yes.
manager, a whatever." Like, they don't talk about, like, the expenses, and it's like, "Cool, you profited 5,000, which is still awesome, but it's different than 10K."
Yes. 100%. Oh, I love this conversation.
Me too. Okay, one more question for you about, like, business stuff, but what do you think is something people can do to really stand out in a saturated market? Because you really stand out. Like, I don't even think I follow another copywriter because I'm just like, you get it. But how would you recommend other businesses do that?
I would recommend just to constantly remind yourself that you're not just going to be known for what you do, right? I'm not just going to be known for copy. I would say probably 80% of my social media, the time I put into social media, I'm not talking about copy.
Yeah.
I'm known for other things. And so, like, let's think about other brands. Nike isn't Nike because they make the best shoe.
Yeah.
Apple isn't Apple because they have the best technology. In fact, a lot of tech companies would argue Apple has not great
The least
technology.
good. Yeah.
Yes, but they're known for other things, like, they're known for being at the top of their industry for other reasons.
They're known for being, like, simple and,
Yes,
like,
or, like, having great, interfaces. Apple's interface
yeah.
is clean, it's sleek, it all works together across their products. Nike is a fun, empowering brand, the emotion they invoke. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's just remembering that it would be so hard. I cannot imagine getting to where I am today if every day I just said, "What am I gonna get on and talk about copy today?" People would be like, How many times can you
Please
talk to
stop.
us about headers? Please stop." And I would agree. I would be like, "This is so boring." So I would say remember that, especially if you're a service provider or a coach or an educator, you have a personal brand. You just do.
Yeah.
Please argue with me. And so lean
I'm
into
with
that.
you.
Like, what are your things? Kind of think about the little things that make you you that you get on and talk about. And it's like, oh, Kaylee's not talking about copy today, but she's talking about this other thing that we love when Kaylee talks about. It has nothing to do with websites.
Yeah.
I think that really helps. Whether that's taking it, like, you have two goofy looking dogs that you are always posting your elderly gremlin looking dog, and you're like, this is the Frankenstein again up at, you know what I mean? And people,
Yes.
I think what bugs me is a lot of people, especially when it comes to about pages on websites, you'll see a lot of people say, "No one cares what your favorite music is or what your taco order is." Yes, they do. They do care. They care because,
Yes, they
number one,
do.
it makes you human. And number two, think about it. If they're on your website and the first step is they're going to inquire and then book a discovery call, which is a lot of people's process,
Yeah.
they want something to break the ice. And so if you
Oh,
got on
yeah.
and you talked about, if I was in a food truck battle, I'm betting on taco truck. They get to get on that call and be like, "What taco? Like, what would you order? Do you
Yeah.
like?" It just gives them something to talk about, and it makes you human. It makes it feel more um, natural. I would say they feel
Yeah.
like they know you, and so I would bring that into all elements of your branding.
I love that you're recommending all elements of branding because I do feel like people are starting to understand that, like, they have to do that on social media,
Mhm.
but, like, also on your website, also on your podcast, like, in other areas of your branding as well. And you do have a personal brand, whether you want to or not. You have a personal brand with your family, your friends. If you exist, you have a personal brand. There's
Yes.
people know you for a reason. And it's I mean, if you wanna be like a lazy marketer, it's the easiest way to differentiate yourself. Like,
Yes.
be you. And also, like, I think people are scared to admit, like, yeah, industries are saturated. There are a lot of social media managers, there are a lot of wedding photographers, there are a lot of photographers, there are a lot of coaches. Like, these industries do have saturation, but truthfully, no one's gonna hire you unless they actually like you because
Mhm.
of that. Because there's so many options, they're gonna hire you because you make them feel comfortable.
I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said they're gonna hire you. A lot of people are going to make hiring decisions based on things that have nothing to do with your skills and your talents. Like, I didn't always
Yes.
have a portfolio on my website, and my portfolio is actually really outdated. I would say 90% of people who book me to write their websites have not seen a singular website I've written. They have no clue. They just know they vibe with me for something else. Like yesterday, I had a call with a potential client, and she was like, the second I found out how much you loved dogs, I was sold. I knew nothing else. I was like, oh, she's the only copywriter I want to work with. And it makes me giggle because I'm like, probably the majority of copywriters like dogs, right? But they're
Right.
not talking about it. So this
No.
girl doesn't know. And so I would encourage people, like, the things that you think nobody cares about are so irrelevant. It could be the reason somebody picks you over somebody else.
And it makes it so much easier to pivot your business too when you no longer want to do what you're doing.
Yes.
If you have personal connections with people, like they're going to trust you when you go from social media management to coaching or whatever,
Yeah.
or go from photography to coaching or even not a coaching transition. Those are the only ones I can think
Yeah,
of right
you're like,
now.
everyone becomes a
But
coach.
if you or a coach, everyone's a coach. No, but like maybe you're a social media manager and then you shift into copywriting or something, the trust can be translated over when you like change your skill set. So I
Yes.
think that's important to remember too.
Yes, love that because they know you. They feel like they
Yeah.
know you. Yeah, and you are still the person running the brand.
Yeah. Okay, I love that so much. My last question for you is a good one. It's a zinger. Some people get stuck on it, but I don't think you will. So, what is one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self?
Business related?
It could be both or
Mhm.
either one business, personal, whatever.
Personal, I would say not even learn to trust your gut, just like trust your gut and then do the thing. For me, something I struggle with is I have a very strong intuition, a very strong gut feeling toward everything, but then I'll question it. So, kind of like the give me
Yeah.
a sign, and then there's like a billboard, and you're like, give me another sign.
A
That's
different one.
yeah, a different one. I can't see it. There's a glare. I would say that for personal is don't just trust your gut because I do. No, I guess that I don't. Listen to your gut and then trust it enough to do the thing, and I think that's
Yeah.
with business too. And then in business, continue to build relationships, I think, and I think I've done a great job of this, but I would remind the younger me when I first built my business, I kind of got absorbed a little bit into a specific person's orbit, right? I wrote copy for
Yeah.
somebody and became a little bit known for being that person's copywriter. And then everybody who was under her umbrella hired me. And then it was like everyone who hired me found me because of this girl. And while that was cool because I got, clients, I made money, I think I stopped for probably about a year expanding my web of people. I kind of was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the networking is being done for me. All of these people are finding me. Why would I put more effort into building relationships when I'm booked and busy?" And I've definitely done a better job of that over the past few years, but I think I would just remind little entrepreneur me that, like, no, you need to continue to network quite literally forever.
Yeah, just, like, make it a habit.
Mhm.
I think that happens to a lot of people, like, I've done it too, but I think it happens when you get busy and you
Yes.
get, like, kinda comfortable that you get that feeling of, like, "I guess I don't need this anymore," but then it's like, well, you might need it in, like
Yeah, exactly.
in
You don't
18
know.
months or something, like,
Yes.
you don't know, those leads could, like, dry up, and so just not putting, like, all of your eggs in one basket, I guess, would be, like, my take on that is it's, like, just make sure you're, like, diversifying those
Yes.
things.
100%.
'Cause and then also, like, what if that one person doesn't like you anymore? Like, for whatever reason, like, I don't know, that would be scary.
Oh, yeah, well, then your entire circle of friends and network is gone, yeah.
You go down.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I love that so much, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've loved chatting with you, and I just appreciate all of your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I was excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, bye. First, I want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to my podcast. It means the world to me, and I just appreciate this community more than you could ever know. If you love this episode or a previous episode that you've listened to, go ahead and head to the leave a review link in the show notes and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. And we're so glad that you're here. Thank you.